Okay, it's a little after 9, and I'll let them get that volume adjusted a little bit. It's a little after 9. Weldon called me yesterday and said he was sick, and I believed him. But anyway, he asked if I would take the class again, and so it's been a week in between since I was here, so maybe y'all can tolerate another maybe 45 minutes with me. I want to make a comment, though, at the beginning. The life group that I'm a part of meets on Sunday night back in what we call the hen roost at 5 o'clock. We have around 30 to 35 folks. A lot of them are in here this morning. But if you are not involved in a life group, we would invite you to be a part of our group. We have a good time. I try to have where they can laugh a lot. But we do study the Bible. We only spent a little over a year in the book of John, which they thoroughly enjoyed, being on it for a year. But we always knew where we were. Weldon is sick. Like I said, he told me he didn't want to come if he had something, and I appreciate that. I can say a few more things that I couldn't say when I was in the eldership, or shouldn't say when I was in the eldership. But if you're sick, we don't want you to come. We're the most sharing congregation. We share everything we've got with each other, I know. But especially those of us older ones don't want to be exposed to more things. But we appreciate when you're well and you come and we can all stay well. So I appreciate Weldon for doing that. I taught here a week ago. Who remembers what we talked about a week ago? Testing your memory, see if it made any impact at all. What was it? Who else? You're going to have to speak up. My head stopped up this morning, so I can't.
You have to remember the crowd you're speaking to.
Well, I'm speaking up. It's just that I can't hear. About complaining. Okay. I thought in the ensuing week I should have said, I do have a complaint, even though I talked about complaining. I have yet to understand why God thought it necessary to create mosquitoes. That's my only complaint.
So the frogs have something.
Because they bother me and they love me dearly. They say it's my blood type. If you have a certain blood type, they won't bother you. I don't know if that's true or not. Well, today I want to talk about, we did a textual study last time. I'm going to go do a topical this time and see how it goes. If I were to say to you this morning, I have been blessed, what do you think that means?
Things are going pretty good.
Things are going pretty good. Thank you for speaking up. God has been good to you. What else? Don?
I think that's a very important way to put it, too. If you think about it, blessings only come from God.
Okay.
The only real place to get or to have anything that's worthwhile.
Blessings only come from God. Now, let me stop you there because I want to make this an opportunity for you to use that, because really and truly you don't know what I meant by that. And the only way that you're going to know what I meant by that is what? Ask me. You see, all of us in here have a story. In fact, some of us have many stories. Some of them repeat those stories. but we all have stories about our life and our experiences. So when I say I've been blessed, you have no idea what I'm talking about. But you run it through your experiences. So what I want to do this morning, though, is that you can use that when you're meeting someone by saying, how has God blessed you? I want to know. Gloria?
You see, we don't know that you've been blessed. The only thing I know, you've been blessed with children.
Okay.
That's a blessing we know about you.
Right. What I'm going to ask you to do this morning, though, is to paint us a picture of what it means in your life that you've been blessed. You know, I talked to you a week ago. I said, we think in imagery. If I say a word, you see the image. You don't really see the word necessarily. Some might just see a word. But most of us see an image. So if we use the words, we're creating an image of what we're talking about. So for a few minutes, if you would, some of you who would share with that, tell us in words what blessed in your life means to you. If you say, I have been blessed, what does that mean?
Good friends, good family.
Good family? All right.
I am blessed to have been brought up by good, strong Christian parents, which placed me in the hands of God as one of His children eventually. My parents were a real blessing to me. Now I'm blessed to be in the household of God.
Okay. Might I ask you, how were they a blessing to you?
By example and by teaching.
Okay. All right. Who else? Chris.
I have been blessed by a good woman who loves me in spite of me.
All right. You've been blessed by a good woman who loves you in spite of you. We love you too, Chris. What else? Riley, I know you've got a story.
Well, this is my treasure here, and that's a blessing.
What about your purple wind?
Oh, yeah, I can hear better now.
Riley can hear. What we were talking with him the other night, and he would say at least twice in our conversation of 3 to 4 hours, I can hear what you're saying. I can understand what you're saying. That to Riley is a blessing. We wouldn't necessarily think that in our lives. That's why I'm saying all of us have blessings and we think we've been blessed, but we're not sure how unless we ask them. So this could be a tool that you can use when you're meeting someone. Anyone else have anything they want to share? Don.
We sat at the breakfast table at IHOP yesterday with 14 of our kids and great-grandkids and grandkids. And I just looked around the table, 5 great-grandkids, ranging really from about 7 on up. And I just looked at those kids and their faces and their mothers and dads. And I thought, that's the best blessing we have. That's the same thing Chris said. Good woman started over there.
Okay. Sitting with your family, your grandkids. As everybody, like I said, has a story. They have something to tell. Did I overlook you, Sandy?
No, he just kind of took precedence.
He did? Okay. Anyone else? Yes, Sharon.
I think it's the sense of peace, even when we have a good family, but there was divorce, death, serious illness, and yet in the midst of all that, there was the peace of His presence. That was the blessing.
Okay. you still have in the midst of life happening, you still can find something that you could be blessed with or about. And so as you look at that, think about that as an opportunity to ask someone. I want to move. Sometimes we think that we're blessed, kind of like the man in Matthew 25, if y'all recall that. The master was going away, and he gave to the servants, we call them talents sometimes. I'll translate that so we understand it. We're going to call it money. He gave to one, let's say, $5,000, and to another one $2,000, and to another one $1,000. Which one of those was blessed? But how do we think as humans? The one with the most. We look and we compare. We do comparative analysis too much sometimes. But blessings come not from comparison. That's why I say you've got to look at your own life. You really don't know what I'm saying when I say I'm blessed. I don't know what you're saying when you say you're blessed. And so you ask someone, what do you mean? Tell me about your life. Tell me what's going on. James 1:12 says, remain steadfast under trial. Yes, you do, Joyce, and that is a good thing. Talk to God every day. That's what we need to do. Even when we're under trial, James says, remain steadfast under trial. We might go to the passage in Matthew 5, which is the Beatitudes. Blessed are all those different types of folks. But being blessed comes to us in different ways. What woman was blessed among all women, above all women? Mary. How was she blessed above all women?
She bore the child of God.
She was going to have God's son to birth him. What disciple did Jesus say that he was blessed? Apostle, which one? You are blessed. I'm just challenging your memory a little bit here. You remember? It's in the book of Matthew. One of them is Matthew 16. Now, when Jesus came into the district of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, who do men say that the Son of Man is? And they said, some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, others say Jeremiah and one of the prophets. And he said to them, but who do you say that I am? And Simon Peter said, you are the Christ, the Son of God. And Jesus answered him, blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed it to you. He's told him that he was blessed. How would he have been blessed because flesh and blood hadn't revealed who Jesus was? How is that a blessing?
God has blessed him, Peter, with the intellect to have absorbed what.
Okay, he blessed Peter with the intellect to absorb. What else was going on there on Peter's part?
Ultimately, he was the one who preached the first gospel sermon,
He did.
which is, in some sense, the word.
And not only that, but he said upon that you are Peter, and upon this rock, this foundation, I will build my church. But Peter was open to hearing what God says. Peter was attentive. And so as you read through and you come across that word blessed, I don't know if it's blessed or blessed. If we do other terms that end in ed, it sounds kind of funny to say it that way, but I've always heard it blessed, blessed, or blessed. So you've got several people. There's one more of the disciples that talks about being blessed, but he actually is talking to us. You recall John chapter 20, verse 29. Thomas is in the room, and Thomas says, I touched his side, and what did he say? I believe. And Jesus said what? Blessed are those who have not seen, but still believe. He's talking to us. He's talking to all the people afterwards. We can see, weren't there, but we still believe. Blessed are those people. I'm not quite sure how we would be blessed because we believe even though we haven't seen. I grew up with the terminology, seeing is believing. Really? It was in the case with Thomas, because he said, now I believe. And Jesus said, but if you haven't seen and believe, you're going to be blessed. Well, the way I came up with talking about this today, because Weldon called me late in the morning yesterday, and I thought, okay, I'm going to be open. I want to know, what do I talk about tomorrow? What can help me that I need? And I went to Brahms to get my breakfast through the drive-through window. And the man that was there in the window, that's why I say to me, you got to be open. You got to be paying attention. I drove through and there was an older man there, and he was very joyous. And I said, well, how are you today? He said, oh, I am so blessed, I don't have to be stressed. He said, too blessed to be stressed. And I drove away and I said, thank you, Lord, that's where I'm going. And that's how this came about, being open. Too blessed to be stressed. Really? We as Christians have got so much going. Are we really too blessed to be stressed?
Do we get spoiled sometimes?
Get spoiled? We may do it. So I got to thinking about, are we really too blessed? We talk about being blessed. Can we be too blessed? Or is it just being blessed? But how does that drive away stress? Should it drive away stress? Chew on that for a little bit and let me know what you think. If we're so blessed, why are we still stressed?
I don't know of anyone in the New Testament probably had any more reason to be stressed than the Apostle Paul. And yet he said, I have learned to be content. And he describes some of those situations. He said, whatever's going on, I've learned to be content. I've learned to rest in my stress. Actually, what he's saying.
Philippians chapter 4, verse 6 and 7. Y'all can quote it. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God, and the peace of God which transcends all understanding will guard your heart. This idea of do not be anxious. How many of us get anxious? Why? And it's always, there's so many passages that talk about being anxious. Matthew 6, therefore do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough of its own trouble. We know that. We read that. But we don't practice it. Carol.
We have a hard time controlling our mind.
All right. There is that passage that says we need to take every thought captive. And boy, that's hard to do. Take every thought captive. If we belong to God, if we are His children, and He says, I'll take care of you, can I get so blessed that I just don't worry about being stressed? Can we get to that point? I don't think we're there. I think some of you, are. Some of you let life's problems just kind of come and go, and you stay pretty steady. Don.
There's so much here to what you're really saying. We can turn to the statement you started with around and say, what we are really today, for the most part, is too stressed to be blessed.
See, you read my point 3.
I'm trying to wrap up for you.
Thank you. All right. Is it time to wrap up? No, you're right.
Amplified it to the
You're right. Go ahead.
See, I was listening to the news this morning, and the descriptions were of the men who blew up the car and a lot of men who
Right.
committed the truck attack in New Orleans. Both of those men had a form of PTSD, which is another way of saying that they allowed their anxieties, their worries, their anger, the way the newsman put it,
Yeah.
to overwhelm everything they'd ever been taught, everything that they had fought for, in fact, and turn around and turn it on other people. Now that's the opposite.
It is.
Accepting blessing from God, it's refusing God's blessing and turning to anger. And it results in nothing but destruction, heartache, and for those two men, death.
You know, because of the events of this past week, I really struggled because I really want to kind of talk about evil in the world. There really is evil. It's not just bad actions. There's just really evil things in the world. And Satan has got its hold. Satan gets us in his crosshairs, and he's sitting patiently like a sniper does and waits till he finds the opportune time. And I really struggled with wanting to do that, but then I kind of felt this was a little more positive maybe than that. And so as we look at being blessed, can we be blessed enough that we won't allow stress to come in? And I think that's what we all struggle. We want to be faithful people. We want to have enough faith. In fact, Jesus said, or not Jesus, Paul said, if you ask anything in my name and doubt, you've got a problem. You've got to ask with nothing wavering. And boy, I tell you, that is tough when you're asking for something and you don't doubt. Doubting is what gets us. I've been praying a lot over the past years, trying to get to the point of saying, I know if I ask and I believe. And then that little thing comes back, but what if? Are you really sure? That little bit of doubt always seems to creep back in. And getting rid of that, and I covered a lot of this in my idea when we talked on Sunday night about margin in our life, and I told you a week ago that we've talked about that, but it's the load we're carrying and then the limit that we have, and that space in between is margin. And we don't give ourselves enough margin. We just carry more and more and more, and we don't get rid of it. And so how do you cast all your burdens? And that's what I've been doing. How do I throw those over to God? Some of you do a good job of that. I don't do a good job at that a lot of times. Getting rid of what I'm anxious about, what I'm concerned about. Like Ray said, the Apostle Paul, look at all he went through. Look at all of what life brought him. We've got a culture in the church, and it's not just today. I think we've had it for a while, ever since I'm in my late 70s now. And some of y'all are going at a faster speed than I am because you're in your 80s and 90s, and I get that. That's the way our class is on Sunday night. But I've been down the highway enough that sometimes we just want a comfortable religion. I look at Paul's life, and Paul's the one who said, what you have heard and seen in me, do. I don't really want to do that. I think we get challenged. I get challenged, let me put it that way. We go to the Bible and we read a lot of these things. That's why I asked you, I was kind of curious if you remembered what we talked about a week ago. I would like to make an impact. I would like for you to be able to go out of here and somebody says, what did y'all talk about in class? I'd like for you to say, we talked about too blessed to be stressed. Say it with me. Too blessed to be stressed. Say it again. Too blessed to be stressed. Now, Don's already helped us to move on in to talking about too stressed to be blessed. The stresses of life, the strain, the struggles, what life brings us. Sometimes we bring it on ourselves, but sometimes we don't. And it's the don't that I think gives us the problems. How do I handle this? How do I handle the stress, and what does this cause me to not want to do? It may say, if it's going to be hard, I don't want any part of it. Be faithful unto death, and you'll get the crown. Be faithful. Faithful, what is faithful? I mean, there's so many avenues that we can talk about being blessed and stressed. Stress just means we let those anxious thoughts. In fact, Proverbs 12:25 says, anxiety in the heart causes depression, but a good word makes it glad. It's talking about our heart as an it. Anxiety causes depression. If you've ever been depressed, and I've been there, and depression gets to you, it makes you inoperable. It makes you not functional. And I can tell when I'm starting to get that way. I kind of know what some of my triggers are. And I think, why can't I get out of this? You know, a lot of people, they get in, it's hard to get out. And you got to have help sometimes, if not all the time. But I've learned that I can't sit down and do nothing. I've got to get up and do something, anything, just move. But sometimes, as you say, the PTSD is a totally different thing. And a lot of people struggle with that. That's not a stress that I struggle with. So I have no insight into that. But I do struggle sometimes with depression because of life. And yet I'm trying to look back and say, can I be more blessed than I am stressed? Can I do something about that? Can I take those thoughts that come in? Where do thoughts come from? That's a good question. Where do thoughts come from? They just pop in your head. Where did that come from? And then I get these thoughts in my head that just keep going round and round and around and around and around. Stop. How do you work with stress and blessed? And I'm just hoping today that you'll remember that more blessed will help us to be less stressed. If we see the blessings, if we see what God, a lot of times, if not all the time, we can't see a lot of our blessing until we look back. Isn't that right, Tony? We cannot see, when we're at that moment in time, we don't always see that maybe God's hand is in this. Maybe this is the way it should be. Maybe this is how I ought to go. But when we look back, we think, wow, that really worked out. I couldn't have planned that. Being more blessed maybe can move us not to be so stressed. Proverbs, as I said, Proverbs 12:25, anxiety in the heart causes depression. For out of the heart, the mouth speaks. Everything coming out of the heart. So, you know, if we had time to get another lesson on evil, where does that come from? Well, it starts in the heart. Proverbs 3, verse 5 and 6, trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge Him, and He will make your path straight. It's not necessarily that they're going to be straight. You're still going to have problems in life, but sometimes we get the idea as when we were younger that all we have to do is just be obedient to God, and now everything's going to line up and all the lights are going to be green when we leave the house. And that's just not the way it is. And so stress comes in. And sometimes we get pulled away from thinking that we're blessed. And we focus in on how many things are going on. How many things we have to do. What we're going to do tomorrow and next week and next year. And can I get that done? And can I get this done? And that's why that margin comes back in. You've got to have time to rest, spend time. I think that old passage that I've always liked, be still. What's the rest of it? And know that I am God. Some of us can't be still long enough. Well, if we do, we go to sleep. That's what happens. I know from experience. But being still, trying to absorb all that God's done for us. We can read it, we can talk about it, but it's the doing that gives us problems. Who was it? I think Carl Sandburg. I just happened to think. I think it was Carl Sandburg that said that life is too much with us. We get caught up in living life, and it's about for ourselves a lot of times. And we get stressed over things. And yet there's so many passages. I know y'all can quote a lot of passages that talk about dependence on God. Don't be anxious. Cast all your cares on Him, for He cares for you. The lilies of the field are decorated by God. Won't He take care of us? Again, reading, talking, but doing, putting it into practice. How do you go about? There's a lot of wise people here this morning. I know. You're Bible people. How do you go about casting your anxiety and your care on God? How do you do that? Sharon.
Actually, sometimes I just have to do like the man told Jesus, I believe, help my unbelief. It's really,
Okay, thank you. What else? How do you do it? Not how somebody else does it. How do you do it?
Find contentment is what your present existence.
Find contentment. That's a struggle sometimes, isn't it? Be content. As some of my extended family used to say, you get what you get and don't throw a fit. When you're trying to teach your kids something and they're grousing around, you get what you get and don't throw a fit. Sometimes we throw fits. We talked about that a week ago. I appreciate all of you who've remembered what we talked about. Grumbling, griping, complaining. It's interesting to me because it's as little as a child that would say, and you know people, you may be this way, they don't want their food touching at all. And I've got a granddaughter that says, oh, my food's contaminated. And I laugh at that. Contaminated. Well, we moan and groan about what life gives us a lot of times. And yet look at Paul's life. And that's what I say when we look and read the Bible. Paul didn't have a comfortable life. And we've got so many comforts, and yet we still complain. I still complain. And I look and I think, why am I complaining? Am I more blessed and less stressed? Can I get there? Can I think about that? Sandy.
I just finished reading through the Psalms. And one thing that I just picked up on from your discussion is how often that David would grumble and you know, how long, Lord?
How long? How long am I going to be this?
And yet, usually at the end, he comes around to, Lord, you're in control. You're my refuge. You're this,
Yes.
you're that. And I think just realizing that somebody like David, a man after God's own heart, does the same thing we do, can relieve that anxiety that we often feel. God will listen to us even when we do grumble and bring some peace to us.
Okay. David, she says, reading through the Psalms, was grousing and grumbling, and yet at the end, he would say, Lord, you You are my refuge. You are the one. And that's kind of the way I think we are. That's the way I am. We'll grouse around and we'll not be happy about one thing or another. But we know God's still in control. That's what we always say. We know God's still in control, but putting that into practice and not being stressed over everything. And I'll kind of end where I started. I still get stressed when mosquitoes come out. I just don't understand that.
Well, don't move to South Texas.
And you don't move to South Texas. Well, there's places in Sherman that I can't go. But think about this. I would like to be able to ask you within a few weeks what we talked about this morning. And what's the adage that you would tell me? So blessed, no stress. However you want to word that. Too blessed to be stressed. Turn that too stressed to be blessed around and say too blessed to be stressed. I appreciate you commenting this morning. I appreciate you being here. And I hope that Weldon, hope you get to doing better, Weldon. You're back next week. But I enjoy and I feel blessed that I was able to be here this morning, that I could fill in for Weldon. I feel blessed anytime that I can meet and talk with people about the Bible and about how we live our Christian life. Like I said, I want to put a plug again. If you are not plugged into a life group, we would love to have you be a part of ours. We'll start January the 12th again on Sunday night at 5 o'clock. Thank y'all.